back to the up and downs. Byun is out, but that's not true for anyone else yet in this group. We're going to find out just who's taking these next 2 spots. Could all be decided in the next 3 games.
Exactly, it could also be decided in the next 2 games. The next match is going to be PatalyzE versus Effort, and then we have Curious versus Super. PatalyzE and Curious are currently the 2 players that are leading the ranks, as you can see, with a 2-0 and a 2-1. And if those 2 guys win their next match, then both of them will be in Kodas. Yep. Just one of the eventualities that we have here, but this is like the outcome. If both win their game, then we only need the next 2 games that we have here at the up and down group. So let's see what happens. First of all, we have PatalyzE. We have Rotos up against Effort.
Yep. And these are the 2 Castle players of the group battling it out here.
And Effort already won against the Protoss today. He won against Super. Even though there was like a bit of a misstep by Super in that game. With the defense at home, he would have been able to just move on with his push and do a lot of damage as it was. He didn't have anything at home and then had to retreat with a very, let's say, a very interesting recall that did not help him at all. Star Station is going to be the map between PatalyzE and Effort here.
This is a very, very large map, and it's still the GSL version. Probably the last time it will be, but there are all spawns possible.
Yeah, Effort, of course, he has to take it now. He had 2 games so far today. One against Super that I mentioned earlier. That was the match that he won, and then he played a ZVZ against Curious that he lost. The StarTel player being a little bit too strong for him. So let's see what he can do in his 3rd game here. If he can get the same score that PatalyzE then would have if he loses here, or if PatalyzE is gonna push through and saves himself a spot in the next season of the WCS Korea Premier League. Jumping into the game right now, Star Station, the map, PatalyzE versus Effort at the GSL Up and Down Group D from Carl and Wolf.
Say hello to the road.
Starting to the bottom left of the map, we have the Protoss player. So far, undefeated in this group with a 2-0. It is
SK Telecom T1, PatalyzE.
And we talked a little bit about his statistics. He played 3 games so far, if you include the match against Curious earlier, against ESF Zerg players. He won every single one of them. The only match against Zerg that he ever lost in Heart of the Swarm was against a fellow Caspar player. That's exactly what he's facing right now. He's facing the Zerg up to the top left in blue. It is
CJ Entus Effort.
The one loss that PatalyzE has was not against Effort, it was against Su, but both of them being Caspar Zerg players. And Effort himself already successful today against another Protoss player, took down Super earlier in the group. So really good performance by him today so far. Just not including the ZVZ that we saw against Curious, but still, with a win here, PatalyzE is advancing to the WCS Korean Premier League in the 2nd season. So he really wants to win this game.
Yeah, this would be super ideal for him. Taking this win, of course, puts him right into the OSL. And, you know, for Kestrel players, the OSL has a lot of history. You know, it's the tournament they've always wanted getting into. Before the GSL even existed, you know, that was their dream. Now they have an entirely new tournament system, the WCS, and to play in the OSL, even though it is really part of a bigger scheme of things, the GSL and the OSL are both part of WCS. There's definitely some weight to that for Kestrel players, especially some of the younger ones like PatalyzE.
And right now what we have in this game is actually a hatch first by Effort. So he went into the hatch before he started with his pool and has an early gas here too. A little bit risky, but it's a 4-player map still. Keep in mind, Wolf talked about it before we headed into the game. This is not the ladder version that we have of Star Station. You can spawn on all the positions, and therefore you don't necessarily find your opponent at the first position that you scout with a probe. So even though we have now PatalyzE in a position where he saw what happened, he can't do anything about it. It's already too late.
PatalyzE is something I really like. He skips the cannon. He sees the timings here and goes into the gateway first because he knows that on a map of this size, he has enough time to get the gateway out first. It's going to help his tech quite a bit.
Especially because we don't have the pool before the hatch, but the other way around, so it was delayed and he knows there's no way to get the units out in time. So for him, a very good choice here to delay the cannon a little bit and get his tech out faster with the gateway. Very good move that he made there.
Effort is, you know, he's playing this game almost as if he expected a gateway expand. He used the Bastard Gas out, He has the hatch first, for, you know, just putting it out very early.
He's just playing it really greedy.
Yes.
With the early hatch that he already has, and then even delaying it a little bit more to get the gas out there, he gets the faster speed, and with the speed alone, he can already control the map, make sure that he spots all of those probes that are scattered, and that will try to get a pylon in there, or at least another scout.
Silly probe, that's not a watchtower.
Yeah, tries to get a...
Probe's like, oh, okay, thanks, Wolf. I thought it was watchtower.
on top of the pedestal, but that's not gonna happen. A lot of gas here for effort.
Yeah.
He has a lot of gas. I mean, he never really pulled out.
So he has like too much gas.
He
He
can
needs
go
to do something with that.
exactly. He can go right into the leg upgrade if he wants to. We are at 5:30 in the game. That
You
is
think he
a
forgot
ton
to
of
pull
gas.
out?
No,
I mean-
no. There's no way that you forget that. As
Well, why not get the lair?
I actually don't
Why
know.
build up? Because 200 gas can't buy you anything.
Well, he might actually not want to go into lair right away, but add those upgrades, and he adds now the evolution chamber, so he could go for something completely different here.
Yeah, I guess the timing for the evolution chambers here is okay. He's still gonna have some excess gas, and you know, guys, when I say excess gas, I mean that yeah, of course, he's gonna use the gas later, but he wants to have more minerals to make more drones, make more queens, whatever else he would like, as early as possible.
Yeah, and also see what exactly is coming. Your usual timing for the tech into lair would be at roughly 7 minutes, and that's something that he can hit. You can see that now the upgrades are being started a little bit earlier, so if he wants to go into his lair tech, the next 100 gas that he has will be dedicated to start the upgrade. And with 1-1, he can do quite a lot here. We've seen so many variations going into even Lings and Banelings, not really something that you would attempt against the Protoss on this map, unless the Protoss is really suicidal and doesn't have any defenses at all.
Or
But you
he's
can
Vampire.
even yeah, or Vampire. But we have even PatalyzE now with double cannon, because he didn't really know what to make of this. And there's the lair tech at 7 minutes, as pointed out.
We have an interesting build here. He goes into robotics and phoenixes, but a quick robotics. Not that he made more phoenixes and then went into the robo. And part of the reason he's flexible enough to do this is because he got his gateway just a little bit faster, so his tech just kind of comes out a few seconds earlier than you would normally have as a Protoss. I'm curious to see how he transitions into that third base with this type of play.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what exactly this is going to be, what we have here from Effort, because the upgrades that he's showing right now going into melee, we've seen attempts, especially at the beginning of Heart of the Swarm, going into Ultralisks that are now viable against Protoss, depending on what kind of attack pattern you choose. On a map like this, we've seen a lot of link pressure trying to take down that third base, but it's going to be, for me personally, it's going to be quite interesting to see what exactly his plan of action is. And he goes now into the third base. The Protoss player with the robotic spay that follows up has now a window where he can also be very aggressive, but we even have now the infestation bit. We could see Swarm Hosts at the beginning and then a later transition into Brute Lords again.
I think what we're going to see from PatalyzE is 4 gateway plus 1 pressure, and then the two Immortal Colossus push. He's going to eliminate some gas drones here, gets 2 of them, and loses a Phoenix for it, though. That's really not what you want.
For Effort, we have either the straight Hive Tech into Ultralisk, or he's really going into Swarm Host at the beginning and has those upgrades right at the that we see right now, because he wants in the long term go into Brood Lords, but it looks more and more like it's going to be the Ultralisk, the fast upgrades, and also the 2-2 lens itself.
Good hits here on the sentries, and he's also going to be able to force a cancel. This was absolutely perfect for Effort, and in a tragedy for PatalyzE, really. He just was not paying attention at that time.
And that is where those +1/+1 upgrades come into play, and you can also see that he skipped the Roach one. Here comes the Hive Track. It's going to be Ultralisk also, because that's why he's going to get those extra queens out. So 1-1 really important here, and it would counterbalance a +1 attack upgrade on the Zealots. So this is why we never saw the Roachborn, because he headed into these early upgrades with the fast gas that he had.
Yeah, right now, Effort is miles ahead of his opponent. Third base saturated, great tech. He loses some of his harvesters here again because he skimped a little bit on the spores. He only has 1 at his base instead of 2. But consider also that PatalyzE knows exactly what he's up against. This is probably the last Colossus he's going to make for a while. Now, knowing that Hive Tech is out, he's just going to go into Immortals. He starts the second Colossus. Yeah, this is a Ling-heavy style as well, so only having 1 Colossus could be a problem too.
You know what? The bigger problem I feel is going to be... there's no way he's going to lose that again, is there? Oh, actually, he's going to lose that Colossus if he doesn't pay attention. The Zealot's just barely able to shield it.
He saves the sentry as well. This is a good change for PatalyzE.
So the bigger problem here actually is, does he identify what's going on? He needs to find out what he's facing, because he needs a lot of Immortals here. We have seen Ultralisk try to go up against an army that is centered around Immortals, and they... I mean, they really don't do anything against a good Immortal Protoss that is able to shield his army. But here comes the Ultralisk Cavern, and we don't have a single Immortal being produced. Colossi are not the answer.
Yeah, I don't know why he's still making those, because yeah, he hasn't seen the Ultralisk Cavern yet, but what else could it be with Hive? He's seen no Spire.
Yeah, if you see that, you might want to send those Phoenixes to the gym so that they also can lift an Ultralisk, but at this point they're just not strong enough.
They don't have the Kaldor arm upgrade, man. Only that one can lift Ultralisk and Hatcheries.
Yeah, then you can lift both of them at the same time.
Exactly.
I don't know if he doesn't realize what's going on. He cannot possibly hope to hold that with Colossi Zealot.
I sort of... I have like an idea or a theory as to why he's continuing the Colossus production. I think he wants to make sure he has enough to deal with the Lings, because it's not going to be only Ultras. He is going to have to deal with some splash damage Lings, but more Zealots and then Immortals would be much better.
No, of course, I completely agree. He needs something against the Zerglings. That's not the issue. Getting like 2 Colossi out there is completely fine. But the second robotics is so late. He had to get the third base up, of course. That's definitely a problem that he faced. But he still doesn't build Immortals. Not a single one. It's only Colossi, 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 Colossi. It's like he's I don't know. He doesn't see what's going on.
And he doesn't even have range. Range is so late here.
Yeah, he saw with the Phoenixes the Hive tech. And now he spots the Ultralisk Cavern. He needs to switch his tech.
Yeah, immediately cancels and goes into two Immortals. It's as if he didn't realize the possible aggression that he was going to be facing.
I mean, you know, it's weird that he didn't get that earlier, because
yeah, it's so weird.
He saw the Hive tech, and why would a Zerg rush to Hive
exactly
this fast?
There's no Spire, he didn't see a Spire,
yeah.
So and no one ever goes 3-base Broodlords.
And he saw the upgrades on the Zerglings, he saw the +2/+2, he's like, okay, you go heavy melee upgrades, you have a Hive tech out there, this is like 1+1, and for a long time he thought it was 3.
Yeah. You know, when he started range, I thought he thought it was 4 even, but now he's starting to get a grasp on things. You know, he is chrono boosting these out, and if you look at the supply alone right now, PatalyzE is ahead, and he has had a third base for a really, really long time. It's 3 base versus 3 base, so if he holds the initial Ultralisk and can take a 4th base, he will be ahead still, because, you know, he had enough time to transition to those Immortals.
You know, we have 11 Queens. 11 Queens, that is, those Ultralisk could stay alive for a long time. Fungal as well, it's a timing issue at this point. If Effort moves in when there are not enough Immortals, he can crush this third.
Yeah.
He needs to get, of course, the surface area, the Fungal in, but with the Queens and everything that he has, he could do so much here. But he allows PatalyzE to get a huge amount of Immortals now.
Yeah, quite a few indeed, and he's now going up to 7 Immortals. It's going to be his lucky number with Fleet Beacon on the way. Fleet Beacon going to allow him to do, you know, the transition into, of course, anti-Mutalisk, which maybe is what he thinks is going to happen with the Spire, but it also allows him to get Tempest out. It also allows him to make a Mothership if he wants to.
I think Effort just didn't want to gamble it on his first attack. He didn't know if there was already a bunch of Immortals just waiting for him to engage, and he just always planned to also go into the additional Broodlords that are definitely going to help him out a lot. He's trying to keep PatalyzE as low in economy as he possibly can with the Lings that are very mobile on the map, trying to find out where's the army position, what kind of openings do I have, can I go into the third base in the middle line, trying to deny a fourth. So he's doing a good job with this. But he also gives PatalyzE the time to get his own tech up and running.
Yeah, and his 4th base. Anion Pulse Crystals is almost done. He really, really expects a Mutalisk transition, and I like that because I like the idea. It may not even come into play, but he knows he's going to be facing an army that he's making the Immortals, and maybe he's thinking, he's trying to trick me into making the Immortals because he hasn't actually seen the Ultras on the ground just yet. He will see them now.
Yeah, and talking about the Broodlords, you know, he doesn't have anything against the Broodlords, if we are quite honest here. 15 Stalkers, yeah, but have you ever seen a Stalker blink into an Ultralisk? That is not a happy ending.
As soon as he hits the spikes on top of the Ultralisk, he just blows up. That's what happens.
They just pop like pimples. That's what happens if you blink into an Ultralisk composition with your Stalkers.
This attack is not going to work. Not against this many Queens. The Broodlords are ready. Infestors and Ultralisk support. No way.
This is just like him putting his toe into the water and being like, way too cold.
Yeah.
Back to the beach.
Those Lings are...
Tempest time.
They need to calm down.
Time for Tempest, and that's what we see now in the production tab. And this is a good decision, but this time Effort is like, no, I'm not going to give you enough time. I gave you a lot of time already, but I'm not going to wait for those Tempests.
This is going to be so hard for him to engage. He has to make sure his Broodlords siege forward very carefully. Cannot overextend with them.
If Effort waits another minute or two, the Tempest will be ready, and then it's a different game. But at this point, he doesn't have enough. One Tempest is not going to win this great fungal here.
There that zones out the Frost Army so nicely.
Here come those Storms, but they are not strong enough. The Ultralisks, where are those Queens? They're starting to diffuse all of the Broodlords, and a lot of damage done here. But so far, PatalyzE is doing a bit better than I thought.
A great position here for PatalyzE, even though he was fungal earlier. Now he's doing some serious damage. And those Anion Pulse Crystals are actually really helping his Phoenixes here.
Terrible, terrible damage done here by PatalyzE. Effort is doing his best. He's transfusing like a madman with all the Queens at his disposal, and he's pushing through right now. The Antia is gone. The Ultralisks are still, well, one was alive, but the Broodlords, they just tag team in and do the damage right now. A fungal hits those Swapped-in Stalkers immediately.
Yeah. But look at this, just Effort does have the supply lead right now, but he is being cleaned up with his push. The Corruptors, though, are doing work.
The Corruptors took out the Tempest, and they are now taking down most of those... yep, then another one. Most of those Colossi.
He did not make a Mothership Core. Mothership Core would have helped him out a lot there to... Or actually, his Mothership Core died earlier, my mistake.
In resources lost, they are fairly even, and the bank that Effort had is just now being used to give him once again the lead. The Zergling run by not successful, thanks to those cannons. Well, actually, with only one Atosis pile encountering them, there just was no Tastosis pile. Nothing to back the first one up.
Yeah. Does finally clean it up, but a few probes more killed, and in total we're count 86 to 61 right now. Still decent saturation, and the Tempests are still alive.
Yeah.
One lone Viper comes to grab.
That third base is also an issue that we so the fifth base that we have at the top right. So the economy is just way better for Effort, and it starts to show with the supply advantage that he's now taking. And he has the upgrades. I mean, he's on 3-3. He has every upgrade in the book. Adrenal Glance, Catina's Plating. This is looking pretty decent for him. He could go into air upgrades if he wanted to. And the Vipers alone will give him a tough time if they are not feedback, but I don't think that we have actually a lot of High Templars still out on the map. A few of them at the third, but that's it.
Yeah, he almost lost them too. That was not a good idea to try to sniper a Templar like that. That was a very expensive risk he took there.
Lings at the third. I love how PatalyzE is not afraid to dedicate minerals to the... Oh! The Ultralisk is actually getting a lot of hits there, then PatalyzE is now busy at the third. But PatalyzE dedicates a lot of minerals to his economy to save it with a few additional cannons. And I really like that. That's really important here, and that helps him out a lot against the Zergling run bys.
PatalyzE has such a scary army composition he's moving out with here. He's moving away from the creep. He's going to try to surgically remove these two bases.
Effort has to be more careful how he uses those Ultralisks.
They're so expensive, you can't just throw them away like that.
Those are not Zerglings. He cannot just throw them against his opponent. Great fungal on those High Templars. Beautiful. Well done. Blinding Cloud going down now. Oh my god. And he pushes PatalyzE back. PatalyzE literally with a back to the wall. But is there enough DPS on the ground to really deal with this army?
That's the question here. Good Blinding Clouds. Again, the Mothership Core goes down with the last time warp. PatalyzE needs a warp and he just doesn't have it.
This base is gonna bite the dust, but still a supply lead for our Zerg player. CJ and his Effort is doing a good job, and he still has the bank. Let's keep that in mind.
I love that he just has a few Vipers. I think he only has two.
He lost one.
Yeah, so he's got one left, but just how he uses that one or two Blinding Clouds changes the fight incredibly.
Blinding Cloud, such a good spell, and he used it so well here, zoning out his opponent, forcing him back, using also the fungals against the High Templars was a great move, and now he takes a 50 supply lead with a bank available to go even further up in the army supply, chases down Stalkers. This is looking great for Effort here.
Yeah, and right now, PatalyzE, his economy is stable, but he's lost his bank, and he has to make sure that he makes the proper unit composition next, because right now he just only has Stalkers against this army, and that's not going to cut it, especially with excellent fungals here, cutting those Stalkers down, like pimples, like you said before.
Yeah, the fungals really coming through here. I mean, with the fungals, he can make this happen. Stalkers doing the extra damage against Ultralisks, but if you get fungal, then you can't blink away, you can't migrate away. What a nice block! He definitely tried Warcraft at least a little bit.
Yeah, that was one of those blinks that he just... The Ultralisk just has Stalk or something appear around him. He's like, what do I do?
That was not one of those fake surrounds where you have the Mountain King with a Stormbolt and stun your target or anything, or you go in with the Dreadlord and cast Sleep and Surround then. No, man. That was a Death Knight surround right there. A couple of duels moving in, boom, and gone. That's how you do it.
I love the word ghouls. I don't know why.
Oh, they are great. I love them. I hated it when then Frozen Throne came in and you were forced to use fiends all the time. I loved my ghoul army.
Well,
Good old times. Makes
good old times. Well, one day there will be a Warcraft 4.
Oh yeah. And I'll be casting it. I'm 70. I don't care.
I'll be there with you. You'll have to teach me a lot of the basics. But
Don't worry. We're gonna be fine.
one lone Tempest on the way here. He lost the rest of his Tempest, so the army of PatalyzE, he's been given enough time to rebuild it.
Yeah, and he is going once again into the Tempest. So this is really now starting to become a game of the tech switches. One player going once again further into the ground army, then Tempest as a counter to the Ultralisk and back and forth. But I don't think that PatalyzE really has the time.
He is going to lose this Nexus. He is way too far away from home.
Yeah, and this is what I just mentioned. Without the time that he has to make that transition happen, he just loses everything on the ground. And the economy, that's where he is really hurt. At the bottom right, another run by is already targeting down another base. But here come those Blinding Clouds and Fungals.
Fungals and Blinding Clouds here. Storms not enough against this army. There's way too many hit points on those Ultras and the Corruptors. And that may actually be the last that we see of PatalyzE in this game. He's just lost too much.
Yeah, PatalyzE had his chance here to go straight to the OSL, to WCS Korea Premier League next season, but it looks like he will have to wait a little bit longer. Effort with a great effort in this game. He definitely gets an A for that.
Yeah. Another Storm goes down on those best Terrans, but they're still pushing through. Even the Viper here to hang out.
Yeah, that's too much.
GG.
A for effort, taking the game here, being 2-1 in the group now, same score as PatalyzE.
And has the better score against him in direct comparisons.
Yeah, exactly. So we could see a tie. We could definitely see a 3-way tie here. There are several possibilities that could occur. And with the games how they are right now, if Curious wins his next game, he's not even in Code S just yet because of what just happened. So we will definitely have a lot more matches coming your way. But a really interesting game that we saw. I really liked that, even though I am still a little bit surprised that for some reason PatalyzE didn't catch on what was happening earlier.
Yeah, I'm also a little bit surprised he never tried to transition into Void Rays because he had, he had the Stargates there. And against Ultras, Void Rays do well. He killed most of the Queens in one of the earlier engagements, so I think Void Rays could have been a good tech switch for him.
Yeah, it was just like he never saw those Ultralisks coming in the first place, and then when he realized it, he was able to get those Immortals out, but Effort decided to not hit with an Ultralisk timing. He decided to get the Ultralisks out first and then transition into the Broodlords, and that was also something that PatalyzE saw. But because all of his scouting was so delayed, he had one Tempest in the first fight, and the Tempest was trying his hardest. I was like, I can't shoot faster than that, I'm really trying, dude. But then the Corruptors come and chase the Tempest away.
You know, there's always that story about the one Tempest. You remember the game with Killer yesterday? The one Tempest like up on on top of the cliff, like,
Michaeling his heart out on Daybreak.
If I just had a little bit more time, I could kill everything. I just need a little bit more time. I fire slowly. You hear that high-pitched sound? That's how long it takes me to charge up my attack. Yeah. I don't even know what the Tempest attack is called.
I have no idea.
You know, I know almost every ability attack name, but I can't
actually don't know. Like, make a lot of noise attack? I don't know. Like, that thing is the most annoying attack in the entire game.
You know this
so loud.
You know this ringtone that exists, like the people, those teenagers used to use that they make a really high-pitched sound that old people can't hear. It reminds me of that.
Oh, I actually couldn't hear those.
It's like if you're above 35, you actually just like can't hear the Tempest.
Careful here. Next game is Curious versus Super, as mentioned before, and for Super, we are now, of course, once more in a scenario where everything is on the line. If he loses this game, then he is out. Then Curious will not advance. There's still the possibility to have a 3-way tie between Curious, PatalyzE, and Effort. But if Super loses here, his hopes at least to go into Code S or the WCS Korea Premier League, they will have an end.
They will. They will fall apart and collapse.
He has to take it.
He absolutely must. It's Star Station, a large map for this matchup. Can Super figure this one out? Curious is great, especially in the late game against Protoss. If you go for that air style and you're trying to go late game, Curious will match you with that.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, Curious was a lot more successful in Heart of the Swarm with his CVP. But we're gonna find out right now if he can take down Super here. We're heading into the next game. It's Super versus Curious, the GSL up and downs. Colorful.
Say hello.